Testing.
Testing? Yeah, okay. I think we're on. And I don't know if so my screen still has the standby meeting will begin shortly. I think we're on now, but I will call the Mason City Council meeting together for the April 12th, 2021 meeting. It is 7:03 p.m. and I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Here.
Councilmember Nelson,
Here.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Present.
Councilmember Stricula,
Here.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Here.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Here.
Mayor Grossman.
Here.
So the mayor is joining us virtually by way of Zoom, and I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. First order of business is to have a word of prayer. We have Rabbi Izzy Bronstein here this evening. Rabbi, if you'd come to the podium, and I'd ask everyone to stand and join us in a word of prayer, and then immediately after that, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and all the public servants of the room, let us pray. Father in heaven, the people in this room have been given the privilege and the awesome responsibility of performing one of the 7 divine laws issued to all of humanity by you at the dawn of civilization to ensure a peaceful and moral society. Indeed, it is your mandate that societies be governed by just laws, which are based in recognition of you, O God, as the sovereign ruler of all peoples and nations. Master of the universe, who created all in love, we pray for wisdom, material and spiritual blessing for the government of this city, as well as the dedicated public servants who sacrifice so much to be on the front lines, helping the people of our community in so many ways. As citizens of this great country, and indeed as citizens of the world, we find ourselves under the shadow of a pandemic that is impacting the health, economy, and social fabric of our country. It is at times like this when we sense how important it is to be grounded in and strengthened by faith. Thus, we turn to you, Almighty God, and humbly pray for the physical and emotional health of our loved ones, for the health of the citizens of our city and the entire country. And we pray for the speedy recovery of those who are in need of healing. We have complete trust in you that you will provide for our personal needs as you do for every one of our creations, of your creations. And we pray for the economic strength and recovery of our city, state, and country. We pray for moral guidance and for the courage to do what is right as we navigate the challenges different than any we faced before. At a time like this, Psalm 127 comes to mind. If the Lord will not build a house, in vain do its builders toil. If the Lord will not guard a city, in vain does the watcher maintain his vigil. The world is built upon kindness, states Psalm 89. You built it with kindness, and it is with a spirit of kindness and generosity towards our fellow that we will surely be granted the blessing for it to endure and succeed. We pray for the blessing, for that blessing and strength today, and we pray that we emerge from this time even stronger and better than before. And together, let us say, Amen.
Join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the March 22nd council meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the city manager's report. Eric, are you ready for the city manager's report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. A couple of items. Our next meeting is April 26th, and what we're scheduling for that meeting is the opening ceremony for McKeno Park and Common Ground. There may be opportunities for some other tours and work-style discussion as part of that meeting. I don't know exactly what that agenda may look like yet, or much less the starting times for some of those ceremonies. So I think what I'm asking council to consider is to kind of put on hold this actual starting time for that meeting. I think by end of this week, we'll be able to announce if council members are all available beginning around 5 p.m. We may adjust the starting time either with a work session or offsite council meeting. We'll be prepared to make that announcement at the end of the week.
Do we need a motion to do that, or that just?
I'm not sure we have anything definitive enough to make a motion. So I think with sort of council's acquiescence, we'll see what the manager comes up with. And it may be that we just need to announce a different start time or perhaps time and location for the meeting.
I'll just ask, does anyone on council have a concern with changing that start time of that meeting?
I'll make a motion to be flexible. How's that?
Motion to be flexible in that regard and rely on the city manager to get it scheduled. Is there a second? All in favor?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
For two other motions, Mason concerts that are taking place this year on the downtown plaza. The American Legion is in the process of requesting a temporary liquor permit from the state in order to provide that service on the city plaza. They also need a motion from city council to allow that service. That would be for concerts that are currently planned on June 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th, as well as July 3rd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd. As in the past, and the permit would allow sales and consumption from 5 to 11 p.m. As in the past, the Legion will be splitting the profits from those sales with the Parks Foundation. That would require one motion. The second similar motion would be for Heritage Festival Red Rhythm Boom on September 18th from 3 to 11:30 p.m. That motion would allow for alcohol service on the Municipal Center campus, and a motion is in order for that as well.
Can we address both of those in one motion?
Sure. If council's up for that, absolutely.
Is there a motion from council?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to make both of those available during those times for Heritage Festival and the Downtown Plaza times.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? That motion carries. And
Then, Vice Mayor, I have a couple of announcements. The annual Warren County Prayer Breakfast is taking place on Thursday, May 6th at 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Council members are encouraged to attend. The cost is $10 at the door. Friends of the Frontline is hosting a blood drive that will be hosted here at the Mason Municipal Center on Friday, May 7th from 12 to 6 p.m. That is being held in honor of Rick Easter. He was a Mason resident, as well as a member of the Mason Fire Department, the Joint Fire District, and the Mason Fire Auxiliary. He passed away on December 31st of last year, and the blood drive will aim to honor all first responders. Announcing the leisure pool and splash pad at the new Mason Municipal Aquatic Center are going to be ready to open in May. Open houses, an opportunity for all residents to try out the facilities with no admission charge, will be on Saturday, May 8th, 15th, and 22nd. And then as a follow-up from our last meeting, when we discussed the change in the tax filing deadline and how the city was reacting to that, that has now been formalized by the state. So Mason City tax returns, along with other tax returns, are now formally due on Monday, May 17th. The city continues to encourage residents to file early. Most often they are due a refund, and we'd like to process that as soon as possible. That's all I had, Mayor, Vice Mayor.
yeah, so following up on that last point, it probably should be made clear to everyone in Mason that both the federal, state, and city returns are now extended till May 17th. So you have an extra month to get those returns prepared and filed, and that's good information for everyone to take note of. The next item on our agenda is recognition of visitors. Is there anyone present tonight that wishes to address council? See one. If you'd come to the podium and give us your name and address. Yes, sir. Yes, in the blue shirt. Yes. Mr. Williams.
I take this off.
Yes.
Don Williams, 214 West Church Street in downtown Mason. Probably know that, I guess. I'm not here to talk about the street and the traffic. That speaks for itself. So I'm not going to bring that up. I'm just going to take up, I'm not going to take up more than the 5 minutes allowed by the piece of paper I got here. But I do want to just ask a question if I could. And I'm going to direct this basically to our law director, the law director, if you don't mind, Mr. Forbes. I'd like, and this may be redundant to some people, I guess. I think it's sort of important of those who maybe don't know, because every meeting, the council does ordinances and they do resolutions, and a lot of them, more ordinances and resolutions. But I think it'd be interesting to know in layman language, please, what the difference is between an ordinance and a resolution. I can give you my version of what I think it is, which is in a layman term for sure, and very short. It's a law made by the municipality or city or local authority, and it's used when adopting a rule or policy with broad applicable, significant impact, and extended duration. As far as a resolution is concerned, it's a formal expression of an opinion, adopted in a written form, or the will of intent of a municipality or council. The policy or position expressed in the resolution is generally considered to have a limited duration because it can be changed at any time by a single vote of the municipality or council. Now, I don't know how correct or incorrect I am, but I'm going to turn it over to you if you'll give your layman version.
Mr. Forbes?
That was pretty good, actually. But let me address a couple of things. In general, those are actually very good definitions for the difference between an ordinance and a resolution. What I would like to point out, though, is that in the city of Mason, your legislative function is controlled by the city charter. And when you look at the city charter, there actually is essentially no real difference between an ordinance and a resolution. They both take the same procedural requirements, and they both have essentially the same effect. You are correct that in general terms, ordinances are done for things of a much longer or perhaps almost permanent nature. Resolutions very often just express the intent of council or an opinion of council. The only thing I will take, and I don't want to say I'm taking exception with your definitions, but the one thing I will point out is, again, based on the city charter, it doesn't matter if it's an ordinance or a resolution. It only takes one more vote of council to repeal it, override it, ignore it, change it, because they both have the same procedural requirements. One doesn't have any stronger effect than the other. So if something is done as an ordinance, it can be repealed by another ordinance of a future council. If a policy or a intent of council is set forth in a resolution, it can be changed, repealed, modified by a resolution in the future. So neither one really has a permanent effect. The only thing that comes closer to that is sometimes we will codify things by ordinance, and then that actually goes in our code book. But even that can be changed by a single vote of council in the future. I don't know if that helps answer your question.
It does, and I'm trying to get it to the general public out there, because I wonder sometimes if people understand if there is a difference or what that difference may be. It may be very minor, and it sounds like it probably is.
And this is unique to Mason because of your charter. There is a difference, but really not of anything of any significance. There are other communities whose charters are different, and they have very different procedural requirements. If it's a resolution or an ordinance, they have different impact if it's a resolution or an ordinance. That's just not particularly the case here based on your charter.
Just wanted to get a little more clarification of that as far as we're concerned, because of what the council does out there and what we understand is the general public out there and what's being done when an ordinance is brought up. And of course, as I said, mostly it's ordinances that are brought up, way more than resolutions, because we've got, what, 2 resolutions tonight, 5 and 6, compared to, I think the last ordinance is number 56. So it's a much different setup.
Yep.
That's basically what I had. I was just curious and thought that maybe it'd be interesting for the public to hear that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address council? Yes, sir. Come on up and.
John Looker, 111 East Main Street, Mason, Ohio. I would like to proudly announce that we have our yard signs and banners on order. We received 7 additional, is that correct, Lisa? 7 additional banners. Well, a couple of them were redos, but we had actually 38 yard signs that was ordered because families ordered multiple ones. The Middletown family, in recognition of Teddy, who was killed during the Vietnam War, was the family that ordered 15 individual ones for their families. So that's all I had. Vice Mayor.
Very good.
Yes, Ashley.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, very good. Thanks.
Hey,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to address Mr. Looker.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Fine, I'm sorry, is that good?
That's good.
Hey, I wanted to congratulate you. I don't think you were here last time that Councilmember Nelson announced and showed us the beer from Grainworks. And I was a little depressed that I didn't get one. So I was just going to formally throw it out there that if you have extra, then I would certainly like one. I promise I probably won't drink it. I might even keep it up on display, but that was a very cool honor and that was pretty neat to see. So congratulations on that. I haven't talked to you since I got to see that.
Actually, there's only 1 can in a 6-pack.
I'll drink the other 5 and keep yours. How's
All
that?
right. And
All right.
they're available out of Grainworks.
They're still available now?
Yes.
Oh, cool. All right.
And we're
Mayor.
getting ready to brew a new batch.
Sweet. All right. See, that's
Well-
the information I got from Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
Councilmember
actually,
Nelson,
thank you, sorry.
go ahead.
They're actually out, John. You're so popular, they're out because I went there to buy as many as I could so I can give council one. And I only got a couple of them. So you're very popular.
Well, maybe in this next coming batch, we're going to do a batch here in the next couple of weeks.
We appreciate everything you do, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Looker. Anyone else from council have any comments? Thank you, sir. And is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address council? And I don't know if we have anybody in our online audience.
We have one individual there. If you wish to speak, you need to hit your raised hand icon, and in order to address council. Thank you.
All right. Seeing there's no other visitors wishing to address council at this time, we'll move on to our next item, which is we need to move into executive session for just a few moments, I think, just to discuss some acquisition of property, consideration of possible expansion of the Mason Research and Development Park. And I think that will just take a brief couple minutes, but council needs to exit the stage to have that discussion, and then we'll come back and reconvene. I need a motion to adjourn into executive session for that purpose, which will be the purpose of consideration of the possible expansion of Mason Research and Development Park. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Do we need a roll call on that? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on that.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stirkula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
All right, so we will adjourn to executive session. We'll be back in probably less than 5 minutes. I apologize, it took a little bit longer than 5 minutes than I thought it was going to take, but I will call us, well, actually, I would entertain a motion to reconvene back into a regular session.
So moved.
And all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? So we are back in session. I've been approached by Mr. Looker, who asked if he could have a few moments to readjust council. Does any member of council have an objection to?
Just
Go ahead,
Just
Mr.
want
Looker.
to thank the city as well as Lisa, Jenna, and Dan for all the hard work they put into getting this banner program off the ground and the yard signs off the ground. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Looker. And at this time, I think we have some exciting news about the Mason Research and Development Park, and I would entertain a motion to add 2 ordinances, Ordinance 2021-57 and 2021-58, to our agenda tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
And in regard to Ordinance 2020-21-57, is there a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Jeff, would you go ahead and read it?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for sale and purchase with A&M-S LLC, Shoppacher Property.
And I'd entertain a motion then to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading of this ordinance. Is there such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
And Mr. Seiler is, or Mr., I'm not sure who's going to.
I'll start.
Okay. Mr. Hanson.
Yeah. Put up a map that'll help orient us. Look. I want to put this in a little bit of context as far as the city's, just fundamentals of the city's business plan. The city looks to find the right balance between residential property and the services that we have to provide to residential property, and then what is more generally revenue generating property, business. Now this is generally private property. We have zoning to try and help develop that right balance. But there is certainly in times like this, and with a community like Mason that's very attractive, there's a propensity for that residential development to begin to encroach or try to encroach on property that has been set aside and zoned for industrial or corporate use. Over 20 years ago, the city had begun making purchases to the north of the city. What you see here, and maybe Kirk can help, is State Route 741 and 42 north of Mason, north of downtown, I should say. And 20 years ago, the city had begun purchasing property there, had been approached by property owners who realized what the zoning was and began acquiring that property so that the owners could reap their investment without pursuing residential development, and the city could set aside for future revenue generating. All of that is intended to keep the tax burden upon Mason residents as low as possible. Both for the City of Mason residents, but maybe more significantly for Mason City School District residents, to keep the student numbers in check. So what Kirk can kind of point out there, the grayish areas have been acquired over the years by the city, set aside for what we knew as the future when industrial development would move there. The last 2 years have seen us burst onto the scene with that, with Vega currently under construction, Rheinstahl relocating out there, freeing up additional business space down off I-71, as well as PCC and SPS. I wanted to say SBA. I'm sorry, SPS. Have quite a track record now. Also, some years ago, 360 Pharma, a little bit to the south there, that was also city-owned and has now been sold for some years. What your action with Ordinance 2021-57 and 58 would be to expand that area with two, if you look at two packaged purchases, one in each ordinance. The Shoppacher Farm, the former Shoppacher farm, city was approached for the possibility of acquiring that in lieu of residential development, and Ordinance 2021-57 will accomplish that. And then what are collectively known as Brunk properties, and they're, to depending how you look at 3-4 parcels there. The southern parcel then there, 2 parcels off Weldon Drive, and then the northern parcel there adjacent to the Vega development. Those are all, city was approached by the property owners, knowing the future plan for that property, knowing the potential encroachment of residential development. And with these ordinances, the city will be able to further expand the R&D park, protects taxpayers throughout the school district, and preserve future revenue generating capacities as we anticipate accelerated commercial and corporate development in the area. Acquisition of those parcels will accomplish all of that, put us, as well as more significantly the future, in a position to continue the balance of business and residential development in the area. Both are recommended. I can answer any questions, or Kirk can.
Does anyone have any questions for city manager? Seeing none. I need to apologize. I think we jumped ahead and approved suspending the rule and adopting this as without a second reading. And we have done that already. We probably should do that now, but it's already done. So we'll move on to adopting. Is there a motion to adopt this motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any council discussion in regard to the motion itself? Would the clerk call the roll?
Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes.
So that ordinance would be adopted. We'll move on then to ordinance 2021-58. Is there a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
And Mr. Forbes, would you read that?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for sale and purchase with Promark Development, Inc., Tri-State Landscape Supply, Inc., and Michael Jason Brunk, the Brunk property.
Is there any further input from city manager or staff? I think we've already discussed this. Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Is there any opposed? And we need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Is there any council discussion? Clerk would call the roll.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Moving on then to item 9 on our agenda tonight. It is a resolution, Resolution 2021-5. Is there a motion to read by title only?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Jeff, would you read the motion? Or read the
Declaring May 2021 as Building Safety Month.
And Mr. Seiler, do you want to discuss this resolution?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. Building Safety Month is an annual event that's done to raise awareness about building safety. This year's theme is Prevent, Prepare, Protect, Building Codes Save Lives, or Building Codes Save, in order to raise awareness about the importance of building safe and resilient construction. Each week for the month, they have different sub-themes. The first theme is Energy and Innovation, and that talks about how building codes help to lower energy bills and improve health. The second week is Training the Next Generation. That talks about training the workforce to take over. The ICC, International Code Council, estimates that in the next 15 years, we're going to lose 80% of our skilled workforce in the building code arena. So that's an opportunity for the next generation of leaders to take on the building code as a profession. The third week is water safety. That talks about things like not only building code, but water conservation, backflow, things like backflow preventers, as well as swimming pools and backyard safety that are all regulated by the building code. And the fourth week is disaster preparedness. And that is things like family disaster plan tips, evacuation routes through buildings, and how code enforcement helps to protect you in the event of emergencies. So for more information, you can go to iccsafe.org and find out information about that. I would like to add too, we do have information sheets that our staff has put together for residents that are planning on doing projects such as decks, basement finishes, swimming pools, that they can find on our website that will help with some of their project planning. So with that, I would recommend Resolution 2021-5 for adoption. Thank you.
Very good. Is there anyone that has any questions for Mr. Seiler? Councilmember Arnold?
I would just add, as a residential contractor and doing a lot of work in a lot of different communities, Mason is by far the most helpful. And even the handouts that they hand out for people are almost fill in the blank easy for the homeowner for if they want to build their own deck or anything they want to do. I've not seen it anywhere else, and you guys need recognition for that.
Anyone else? So we need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption of this resolution after its first reading. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? With clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
Next item on our agenda, item 10 is ordinance 2021-49. Is there a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Jeff?
Approval of a revised concept planned unit development plan for the Mercy Health Medical Campus, generally bounded by Kings Island Drive, Kings Mills Road, Columbia Road, and Wilson Avenue. Mercy Health.
And this being a first reading, I think we need a public hearing to be set. Mr. Hanson?
We'd like to set a public hearing for May 10th.
Public hearing will be set for May 10th, 2021. Next item on our agenda is item number 11, ordinance 2021-50. There's our motion to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
An ordinance accepting the proposal for construction inspection for the Butler Warren Road and Western Road Roundabout project from Prime AE Group in an amount not to exceed fee of $93,173 and authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents and declaring an emergency.
And I believe Mr. Seiler is going to discuss this.
Yes, I'll take that one. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Go ahead.
This year is an especially busy construction year for us, and looking at our list of projects, this is the one that stands out to us that makes the most sense to hire an outside inspection firm. We have additional funds that with the bids that came back, we have grant funds that we can utilize to cover the cost of the inspection work. In addition, this is a project that we are partnering with Butler County on. So anything that's a local match that we don't have covered by either a federal or state grants that we got for the project can be, half of it will be reimbursed by Butler County. So we expect that just about all of this will be covered by grants, and we had 7 firms submit letters of interest for the project, and Prime AE has performed inspections in the city and in Warren County for the Warren County TID, and they come well recommended. So we're asking that this ordinance for Prime AE be recommended, and also the emergency clause. Sorry, I was trying to read my notes. The emergency clause is because construction actually started out there today. We closed Western Road. We had a few extra hoops to jump through with ODOT in order to get this covered by the federal grant funds, which put us a little bit behind. But with the emergency clause, we can get the inspector out there to help us out with the project this week. So ordinance 2021-50 is recommended for adoption. I'll answer any questions that you have.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Seiler? Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption at the first reading? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt? Is
So moved?
there a second? Any council discussion?
Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Brownlow?
I might have misheard the law director, or he might have misspoke. I read here, it said $93,179. I thought I heard you say $93,173. It's a $6 difference, but I don't know if that's an important detail. I probably misheard, but did anybody else hear the dollar
And
amount?
the ordinance is $93,173. Is it
Is it 73 or 79?
3.
73?
I'm reading 79 right here.
I think you're looking at the memo, the council write-up. The actual legislation
okay.
itself is
Thank you.
the 173
I see
number.
it there. Thank you.
But I'll defer to
No, you're right, actually.
Mr. Seiler, which is the correct.
Ordinance is 73.
We'll go with the ordinance. Like $6 will be
We
fine.
need $6, so I'll grab it out of my pocket. Is there any other discussion from council? Do we have a motion? I guess we need a roll call vote.
Oh.
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is item number 12, ordinance 2021-51. Need a motion to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
An ordinance accepting the proposal for Mason Regional Center for the Arts site due diligence from IBI Group in the amount not to exceed fee of $30,000 and authorizing the city manager to execute contract documents.
And I believe city manager is going to discuss this with us.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Council will likely recall late last year, a group known as the Mason Arts Council presented some aggressive plans for development of a regional center for the arts in Mason. They have 2 phases they anticipate for that development. Phase 1 would include a performing arts center, and then phase 2 would focus on the visual arts. They anticipate raising between $25 and $30 million to construct that facility. City Council, via resolution in December, Resolution 2020-18, offered support for their fundraising efforts, as well as to assist in securing property to locate that facility on as fundraising occurs. And that in conjunction with the city and the Arts Council developing a partnership that would both assist the success of that future arts center, as well as enhance city amenities and the quality of life, primarily for Mason residents, but also impacts throughout the region. As part of that growing developing partnership, the city has currently identified 2 possible locations that we could partner on for the center. One of those was known as the former Gould property, a city-owned parcel located at the western end of West Main Street, and then a parcel at Corwin-Nixon Park, east of the baseball fields. Each site location has some potential benefits, has some challenges. Both will need infrastructure to facilitate the development, both public infrastructure as well as structure on the site. And what is anticipated with this, with Ordinance 2021-51, is hiring an engineering firm to really drill down on both of those sites, start giving some fleshing out what the needs may actually be, including to get utilities, roadway, parking to the sites, as well as what some of the costs may be for those. That will put the city as well as the Arts Council in a better position to really judge and work towards that full partnership as we know a little bit more about what those sites may offer and what they may require in development. That I would anticipate as that work wraps up, that will provide us a quantity of information that we can use to further push the momentum on this project towards additional agreements and ultimately selection of property and authorizing a partnership agreement with the Arts Council on how that will be transferred. Anticipate that will include further timelines, commitments tied to their fundraising ambitions, and ultimately timelines and action steps to both best position their success in their fundraising, as well as the success for the city in providing that. there's any particular questions to the details of the engineering, Kurt will likely do a better job than I would.
Very good. Is there any questions, council? I would just have one, Mr. Hanson, I don't know if there's nothing that talks about a timeline for when the engineering study would be complete. Is there any thoughts as to how long that may take?
I think depending on, on that start date, how this is adopted, I think Kurt has said before, and I always try and, Kurt's always too promises too much, I think. I think he would say 60 days to complete the work. So I'll tell you 90 days once it commences.
Very good. Is there any other questions from council? Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So
So
moved. Or second?
Any council discussion? And the clerk would call the roll.
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gill.
Yes. The next item on our agenda, item number 13, is ordinance 2021-52. Need a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Barrett Paving Materials, Inc. for the 2021 street maintenance program in the amount of $3,971,540.
I believe Mr. Hanson is going to discuss this with us.
I'd like to start to give it some context as well as some congratulations. The paving program I don't know that we give it enough attention. It is one of the most significant ongoing investments that the city makes and one of the biggest impacts to our residents as well as our businesses, keeping our roads in good shape. And it can quickly become a expense. There are so many variables and the engineers do such a good job of trying to track all those as far as how long the pavement, when the most precise times to make investments, to best utilize the dollars we have and best extend the life of that so that it doesn't become a constant. It is a constant outlay, but so that it stays somewhat contained. And I think council has also deserves a lot of credit for how we've come a long ways in how we handle this instead of just an annual budget expense that sometimes is subject to economic factors or revenue factors. We saw that through the recession when we just couldn't afford as much as we probably needed to place into roadways. That has a domino effect and kind of a escalating effect as you go into the future. If you don't make the small investment now, it can quickly become a much larger and urgent investment. And what council has done, and I know sometimes you get tired of me maybe talking about this, but I think it has really been an extremely positive move both for today as well as for the future, is each year we budget a standard amount for the paving program that we anticipate spending just to keep things in check. And depending on finances, we also try and budget what we call a set aside. And that set aside, if not spent, goes into a reserve amount that we hold for each year. And we've been trying to build a balance in that. Because paving is both an ongoing expense, but it's also a commodity. And when the market is right, it's smart to invest more than you may otherwise. We hadn't been in that position years past because it was just an annual expense. By building that set aside balance, so essentially taking some current funds and ensuring against what the future may hold, it's put us in the position that we are today is to really make a significant impact. And with these next three ordinances, your paving program sets a record, I think probably about 200% of what any earlier year's paving program has been by investing over $4 million into roads. And the reason that's good is because this is a good year price-wise. We think we're getting a good deal and not confident that that deal will be available in future years as far as how much you're paying per ton. It's also a good time as far as the need by balancing the larger roadways with residential roadways and collector streets. You're kind of making the investment at a smart time plus at a smart pricing amount. The other thing I wanted to draw attention to is and I don't think we do enough here either, is on the, what I call kind of the preventive maintenance. A lot of the intention is on resurfacing because that is nice and pretty and people notice that. Probably the smarter spend, if you spend at the right time, is the crack sealing and the crack filling programs. This year, we're spending triple the usual amount of crack sealing. That's significant because when you think of this kind of the dynamic expense of roadways, you're always trying to get resurfacing before it falls apart. Maybe you're not spending enough in extending the life of still usable roads. By investing more in crack sealing when we can, we're deferring some of those ongoing expenses in the future. And what I anticipate as we continue to do this, that set-aside program will pay more and more dividends as you're able to build that balance, find the right market timing, and spend even more on the crack sealing, saving you more money. Eventually, you start to catch up and you actually improve what's called the PCI of all the roadways. Instead of burning the candle at both ends, you're kind of extending it at both ends. So I wanted to give just a lot of attention. Council over the years has, I think, been very scrupulous on that, very farsighted in building that. This year, with this program, we will spend actually the amount that was budgeted this year for the basic program, as well as the set aside. So we won't effectively be building the balance, but neither will we be eroding it, which places us in good position. If there are economic downturns or revenue downturns, we won't necessarily have to sacrifice the paving program that year. Also, if there are pricing swings, we'll still be in a good position to invest at a smart time based on the commodity price, as well as possibly the timing. So I know I maybe talk about that or too often on that, but it is really, we've really grown the sophistication of this, and it's worth the investment there when you consider the scale of what we need to put in roadways. So a lot of appreciation both to the engineering department as well as to council. We're kind of at the point I've talked about for so many years. So I wanted to pause a little bit and draw your attention to it because it deserves some attention. It's a significant investment in the city without a huge impact on our operating revenues.
Very good, very good. Thank you for that discussion. So that was a discussion of the next three ordinances, actually, Ordinance 2021 52, 53, and 54, which deal with the issues that we were just addressed. Is there any members of council that have any questions for Mr. Hanson at this time? Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption of Ordinance 2021-52 after its first reading? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And is there any council discussion on Ordinance 2021-52? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman.
Yes.
Next item on our agenda is item number 14, Ordinance 2021-53. Is there a motion to read that by title only?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with J&A Construction, Inc. for the 2021 crack seal program in an amount not to exceed $281,240.
We've already heard from Mr. Hanson on this ordinance. Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption of Ordinance 2021-53 after its first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adopt? Is there a second?
Second.
Any council discussion on this ordinance? There's to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
Item number 15 on our agenda is Ordinance 2021-54. I'd ask, is there a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with J&A Construction, Inc. for the 2021 crack fill program in an amount not to exceed $247,135.
Again, we've already had discussion on this from our city manager. Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there any council discussion on ordinance 2021-54? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda, item number 16, is ordinance 2021-55. Is there a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts with Rozzi's Famous Fireworks in an amount not to exceed $70,760 to provide fireworks for the 2021 Downtown Block Party and the Heritage Festival Red Rhythm and Boom events.
And I believe the assistant city manager is going to discuss this with us.
Vice Mayor, members of council, if you don't mind, I'm going to cover the next two pieces of legislation as well. Historically, almost immediately following our July 3rd Red Rhythm and Boom event, our incident command, a new incident command team is up and running, planning out the next year's event. Unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic and interest of public safety, we were unable to host the 2020 event. That didn't mean the incident command team wasn't preparing and wasn't organizing. They continued to monitor conditions of the pandemic and looked for any opportunity to safely host an event. They also evaluated availability and willingness of acts to perform. And they actually created some virtual programming opportunities for our Mason residents during the 2020 year. Last fall, council approved ordinance 2020-110 and 111, allowing the city to pursue music, entertainment, and stage production for the 2021 event. The team then began aggressively pursuing performing acts, but learned that the market was very limited due to COVID. They also learned that the contractual agreements with performers changed, allowing performers to easily vacate their agreement with significant financial contingency commitments for the city. Also, earlier this year, the city was made aware of the work that the schools have planned on the municipal center campus in areas needed to host the event. If these projects become delayed, it would have had significant implications for the layout of this year's event. In short, there was just too many uncertainties surrounding the event. Council made the decision not to move forward with the major Red Rhythm Boom community event on July 3rd, but rather offer a downtown block party event on the downtown plaza that day. The block party would continue the city's history of providing a patriotic event for the community as part of the July 4th holiday, while continuing to provide support to Mason downtown business community. The block party will be similar to the city's block party that we have hosted in the downtown area. It'll be larger in scale than the Friday night music and Mason events that Eric talked about earlier that will be held in June and July. With the approval of ordinance 2021-55, which is before you tonight, the block party would include a Rozzi fireworks show. In addition, council committed to hosting a Red Rhythm and Boom event in conjunction with the city's annual Heritage Festival on September 18th. So we ask all residents to mark your calendar for September 18th for our Red Rhythm and Boom Heritage Festival event. Delaying the Red Rhythm and Boom event until this fall will allow for the pandemic situation to improve, more planning time for staff, projects on campus to be fully completed, and perhaps better pricing and larger market for entertainment acts. Ordinance 2021-55 also provides funding for Rozzi Fireworks Show during the Red Rhythm Boom Heritage Festival event on September 18th. Both of the shows are 25-minute shows that are being planned. Finally, before you tonight, glamorous but still needed for the events, is Ordinance 2021-56, which authorizes a contract with Rumpke for waste and recycling services related to the Red Rhythm and Boom and Heritage Festival event this fall. It is anticipated that additional legislation still will be needed for kids' activities for these events. The city's incident command team for COVID, as well as our incident command team for Red Rhythm Boom, continue to monitor the situation with COVID. They continue to plan, and they're looking to provide a very safe and fun environment during all of our events this year. With that, ordinance 2021-55 and 56 is recommended for adoption. Thank you.
So any questions for the assistant city manager? I would just have one, if you could clarify again, just for the audience, in terms of the dates for these two events, the July event and then again the Heritage Festival event?
Sure, absolutely. So the July 3rd event will still occur on July 3rd, but it'll be in downtown Mason on the downtown plaza. And it will be a block party, similar to block parties we've held in the past, larger in scale than the Music in Mason concert series. It'll have food, there'll be vendors, there'll be kids' activities there as well. So the footprint of that event will be larger. And then on September 18th, here on this campus, we're currently planning to host the Red Rhythm and Boom and Heritage Festival.
Very good. All right. Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption at the first reading?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-55? Is
So moved?
there a second?
Second.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda, item number 17, is ordinance 2021-56. I would entertain a motion to read by title only.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Mr. Forbes?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke in an amount not to exceed $17,000 to provide trash disposal services and portable bathrooms for the 2021 Heritage Festival Red Rhythm and Boom event.
And we've already heard about this motion, so I would entertain a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Need a motion to adopt.
So moved?
Any council discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Sorry. Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is item number 18, Resolution 2021-6. Need a motion to read by title only.
So moved?
All in favor?
Yes.
No.
Is there an opposition? There's opposition?
Yes.
Mr. Forbes, what is the procedure at
You
that?
may want to take a roll call vote, just so we can be clear. A motion to read by title only requires 5 affirmative votes pursuant to the charter, so it may be best just to take a roll call so we can make sure you have those 5.
Fair enough. Okay. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion to read by title only. Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
No.
Councilmember Nelson,
No.
Councilmember Bradburn,
No.
Councilmember Stricula,
No.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
So it has failed, not receiving 5 votes.
That just means to read by title only has failed, which means I will now
Read the whole thing.
the entire thing.
Very good.
Very good.
Mr. Forbes?
Resolution 2021-6, a resolution establishing a policy related to nonprofit corporations engaged in political activity and declaring an emergency. Whereas government entities may not make expenditures of public monies unless they are for a valid public purpose. And whereas in order to demonstrate that an expenditure is for a valid public purpose, it must be required for the general good of the inhabitants of the community. And the primary objective of the expenditure must be to further a public purpose, even if an incidental private end is advanced. And whereas the city of Mason has in the past made certain proper public expenditures in order to support or participate in activities with nonprofit corporations, and whereas some nonprofit groups are legally permitted to engage in certain levels of political activity such as lobbying and endorsing candidates and issues, and whereas the Council for the City of Mason desires to establish a policy with respect to making public expenditures related to nonprofit corporations engaged in political activity. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1, that this council hereby establishes the policy that expenditures of public funds directed to nonprofit corporations engaged in political activity, i.e. endorsing, ranking, or rating candidates for municipal office, school board, or municipal court, shall be deemed not to be for a proper public purpose and shall be prohibited. Section 2, that when the city manager is presented with a request to expend public funds directed to a nonprofit corporation, council shall determine in a public meeting whether the expenditure is for a proper public purpose by determining if the corporation is engaged in political activity. Section 3, that this resolution is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and general welfare, and shall be effective immediately upon its adoption. The reason for said declaration of emergency is the need to establish this policy at the earliest possible date and to provide guidance to city staff when presented with expenditure requests by nonprofit corporations.
Very good. I believe Mr. Hanson wants to discuss this motion or this ordinance with us.
Just to simply point out, Councilmember Bradburn requested that the legislation be added to the agenda, which was done last week when the agenda was compiled. I think it's been read in full, so I'm not sure I could add anything beyond the reading.
Very good, very good. Is there a motion to suspend the rule and allow for the adoption of this resolution after its first reading?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is all in favor?
No.
Yes.
So there are some.
Again, you may want to, this is the same, it requires 5 affirmative
That's fine.
votes
That's fine.
to adopt after a single reading. So you may want to take a roll call on this too, so we can
right.
establish that.
We'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion to suspend the rule and allow for its adoption after the first reading.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
No.
Councilmember Nelson,
No.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
No.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb.
No. So that would mean that.
So that means the motion fails, which means this is treated as a first reading. It's already been read. You've had your first reading. So that is all there is to do with this
Very good.
legislation tonight.
Next item on the agenda, item number 19 is committee reports. Is there any committee reports?
Vice Mayor?
Is that the Mayor Grossman?
Yes.
Go
Hi.
ahead. Yes.
I apologize. We were scheduled to have a policy and legislation committee today prior to council, and my apologies, we had to cancel that today. My flight was canceled, and so I was not able to be there in time for that meeting. But our goal was to look at some items regarding our communications and work we've been working on, some ongoing dialogue with the Maid Chamber, and unfortunately, the Maid Chamber and their Government Affairs Committee were not able or willing to attend our committee meeting. However, we were going to go ahead and proceed without them, and we are hoping that they will be able to get some documentation to us to give us more details on the topics that we were hoping to discuss as far as our membership in the Maid Chamber. So that's all I have to report. We didn't actually meet, so we'll work on that, and I'll have some materials for all of council in time for the next meeting.
Very good. Any other committee reports?
If I may, Safety Committee was hoping to meet before this meeting. We actually meet tomorrow at 1 p.m.
And any other committee reports?
Vice Mayor, I'm sorry.
Oh,
The
Councilmember
downtown committee-
Hunterlaw. Go ahead.
Yes, the downtown committee did meet. I'm going to say what the date was. It was the 4th Thursday of last month. We meet every month, so we encourage everybody to come out and be a part in that meeting. We did have lots of discussions at that meeting. There was a lot of audience participation. We had lots of differing opinions about the development that's proposed for downtown, what it should look like. Not all were in favor of it. I did invite our guests from that meeting, which was mostly chamber members to attend today to share their points of view. So they could get both sides or get people to be able to wanted to share about it. But it's still a productive meeting and we're still listening to all points of view. Thank you.
Mayor, can I add to that?
Councilmember Nelson, go ahead. You want to add to the
Yes.
downtown committee
Yes.
report? Yes.
So I'm on the downtown committee as well as Josh is. And so during this downtown committee meeting, we had business leaders from here in Mason that attended, as well as the chamber. They have great input that we really appreciate when they come to our meetings. The business leaders, as well as the chamber, are not happy because the Cohen land deal has not gone through the committee. They don't feel like they've been engaged in this whole process. So we discussed it, and something I find kind of funny is that 2 years ago when I wanted the Southwest Philharmonic to come here, I do believe it was the vice mayor that said, this has to go through committee first and be approved by committee first. So the fact that the Jim Cohen deal never went through the downtown committee is a little troublesome. I would like, to make a motion to table the Cohen deal until the downtown committee can analyze it and vet it out. We also talked about, there is this very large book here. I don't know if you can see it. This was the Downtown Mason Revitalization Plan that was created in 2002. This is a very good read, actually. There is a lot of really good information in this plan. Even though it was adopted in 2002, it really still is relevant to today. And there are a lot of suggestions in this plan that have already been done. But there's a lot of suggestions and ideas in this plan that haven't been done. And so we've taken it upon ourselves to go through and read this and come up with some ideas on downtown and how to revitalize our downtown and make it better. One thing that was said at the downtown meeting was, with this Cohen deal, is that we're just thinking about this one little property. We're not thinking about the big picture of downtown. And we need to not piecemeal this together. We need to do it as a plan. So we asked the city manager to contact a developer, an independent developer, to come in and give us some ideas on what the downtown could look like. And then after that plan is done, we're gonna reconvene and look at it and see what we can do to revitalize our downtown finally. So with that being said, let me just look at my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. With that being said, Josh, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things if I can, if you're done.
Yes.
Pause anyway, if I could. Yeah, just.
Councilmember Stricula, yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, go
Thank you.
ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Vice Mayor. If I may.
Yes.
Just a couple of takeaways from me. And yeah, there was a lot of community participation. And just to clarify a point, Councilmember Arnold mentioned that there were chamber members there. They were also very clear to mention that they were not there representing the chamber. They were there as downtown business owners. They were there as residents. They were not there representing the chamber in any official capacity on that point. So just a point of clarification. A couple of three big takeaways for me that came out of that is that we do, and I'm reiterating some of what Councilmember Nelson said, but there's a lack of a vision that we have for a coherent collective vision that we have. So we're looking at this as puzzle pieces that we're just jamming in there, but we don't actually even have the picture on the box what the puzzle should look like. And that's just setting us up for failure. We also talked about that the government has a certain roles to play. And I've said this multiple times. We have certain roles that we should play and that we play very well. Infrastructure, zoning, these are the things that we can do, we do really well. When we start to step outside of that, such as owning land, giving it away for free, it creates problems and it creates issues and it raises concerns. So if we stay to the roles that we should play, that we play well, then we can get a lot more accomplished. And then finally, and with that same piece, is that there's no collaboration. We've seen very little, if any, collaboration at all with the downtown stakeholders. That's business owners, property owners, tenants downtown, and residents as well. So those are the three main
takeaways that I had from the committee. So
Very good.
just to elaborate on the very brief recap that Councilman.
Any other, we're on committee reports, any other committee report? Mr. Councilmember Arnold, you want to add to the downtown committee report?
Yes, Vice Mayor. So I would just add to that. The last downtown committee meeting had all of staff. It had Councilmembers Nelson and Councilmember Stricula and myself. I think it had the president of the chamber, Sherry Taylor. It had Kathy Harbison, the owner of Bay Soars. It had, I think, 3 others. So I think there's maybe 4 or 5 residents and business owners there, and they come to just about every downtown committee meeting, and they're all actively involved in the chamber. One member did say she wanted to clarify to make sure she was there as a resident, not as a chamber. And I'm pretty sure that we just had a vote tonight on ordinances 2021-57 and 2021-58 for the city to purchase ground. Now, unless
Mr. Arnold, is that germane to your committee report?
it does, just because of we make purchases as the city's making purchases on the ground, and then we have agreements with businesses. So eventually we then do what they're accusing us of giving ground away is something that we do regularly here when we do our economic development packages. So I find it ironic that we're going to vote yes to buy ground when we're not selling it.
All right. Any other committee reports?
What can I finish? I need to finish on that. I'm going to make a motion.
Yep. Okay.
This is on behalf of the downtown committee. I'd like to make a motion to table, stop communications with Jim Cohen at this time, table the Jim Cohen land deal, and send it back to the downtown committee where it should have started in the first place, to allow us to vet it.
I'll second.
Second to that motion. And I probably need a roll call vote on that motion. Okay. Ask clerk to call the roll.
Is there council discussion? Pardon me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Is there discussion from council?
Vice Mayor, I believe that motion was to table and that there's not a discussion on tabling.
May I ask Mr. Forbes, is there discussion on a tabling motion?
Well, as I understand the motion, I know it was phrased as to table, but there's no actual, there's no motion or legislation or official action before council right now to table, in the sense that of how we normally, when we talk about tabling items. But my understanding, and please correct me, but I think the real purpose of the motion is to instruct staff to stop any further discussions or negotiations on that particular deal.
Correct. Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I don't think it's a typical motion to table that would normally be without discussion. I think it would be appropriate to have discussion on that type of motion.
All right. So is there any discussion from council?
Yeah, Vice Mayor.
Councilmember.
I was on the downtown committee for, I believe, 4 years. And we got issue 4 passed. We did a lot of good stuff. We were meeting on the regular. And then December of 19, it pretty much stopped. But I get what you're trying to say, but I've said this, I think probably 100 times up here. If the Jim Cohen deal is the best deal we have, I'm okay. I'm good with that. But what I would like to see is I would like to see some competition. I would like to see some other developers come in. And I went back and looked at a few different meetings, and we've kind of spoke out of both sides of our mouths up here. And we said, no, this isn't going to stop us from having discussions with any other developers. And then, when we passed this, I forget the actual ordinance, it did it precisely that. The city manager said, we cannot, out of good faith, negotiate with any other developers. And so I'm sitting here going, well, there we go. We got a developer-driven project going on here, and that is set up for failure. And that's not going to get the best product. It's not going to get, it allows the developer to pretty much make the rules. And that's not how this game should be played. And I'm sorry that we're playing this game, and I just don't agree with it. I don't agree stopping discussions with Mr. Cohen. Like I said, bring him to the table. But I agree with opening up the discussions. So I don't know what that looks like, but I want to open up discussions. And if we had a playbook and we gave these developers this playbook and said, hey, here's what we're doing. Boom, 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 boom. List out all the bullet points, everything we've already negotiated. We would have every developer this side of the Mississippi running to the city of Mason to try to develop this. And that's what I would like to see. And that's what I think makes the most sense. I mean, because everybody knows competition is going to drive a better project. And, you know, to Mr. Hunterlaw's point, like that's almost mute. We do those type of projects and we do those type of things for economic development to where we can tag an ROI to it. And it's very simple. If they have $1 million of payroll, we're going to get 1.12% of that. So I was on the Economic Development Committee for about 4.5 years, and I'm not on that any longer, but we're actually, it's very similar to a lot of projects I do in my private business. There is an ROI associated to it, and there is real tangible numbers that is called math. And you do math, and you can sit there and say, oh, okay, so, and we typically look at what 3 to 5 year payback through the payroll revenue, which is solid, which is incredible. So I don't want to get off topic too much here, but again, if Jim's project's the best, let's bring him to the table. I appreciate him coming and talking to us. I appreciate him wanting, you know, Councilmember Hunterlaw says it all the time, invest $20 million. It's a lot of money. And I would love he should sit at the table, but he shouldn't be the only one. When we do all these why do we purchase that in these 2 different ordinances that you were talking about, Mr. Hunterlaw, is because we get to control. We get to see what goes in there. We get to make the decision. We get to drive that economic development strategy. We are getting driven by a developer. Not good.
Further discussion? Let me go to Mayor Grossman first and then Member Stricula. Mayor Grossman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to let the public know a couple of things. When it comes to land acquisition or disposition of land, it's appropriate to discuss that in executive session. And at some point, we get it to the point after a series of discussions like we did tonight, although we did adopt after the first reading on our purchases tonight, where we can engage the public. I believe that the downtown committee was inclusive of residents and business owners and stakeholders. Mr. Chance chaired a downtown committee meeting in 2019 where some of those same people that were there a couple of weeks ago attended that meeting, and Mr. Cohen attended and went over his project, and very little about his project has changed since then. But the point of, as we've said many times over, and we're circling around this again, we're circling around the mountain, to really get into the details and to find out what's possible with the developer, we have to allow the staff to go into negotiations with them. There's nothing untoward about it. It's doing due diligence. It's being very careful and detailed. It's staff driving the negotiations with the developer. And then they go back and report to us. We give our feedback. Staff goes back with the developer again. There's nothing, we're going through the correct process. I'm looking at my notes here. Opening it up to fair market competition. It's been open to competition for decades, that land there. Mr. Cohen competed for it on the free market, purchased the Keystone piece, and made a proposal to the city, just like he has in Lebanon, just like he has in Milford, just like he has in Hamilton, just like he has in Loveland, where Grater's Ice Cream is. That's his project. Lebanon adopted a development agreement with Mr. Cohen. They have a similar project going up in Lebanon, and I haven't heard anybody on this council criticize Lebanon City Council or Lebanon's mayor. for entering into negotiations with Mr. Cohen and adopting a development agreement, and they're moving forward, and Lebanon is eclipsing us. So to make the motion again, I believe Councilmember Nelson's totally inappropriate to pull it out of discussion or to suspend negotiations with Mr. Cohen in order to block progress. Let's get it through the process and let's take it to legislation and vote. We have been inclusive. There has been fair market competition. And as far as return on investment and economic development, I showed you some math. There is some public return on investment when you look at a $20 million project. And I gave you that with looking at a much smaller project with no tax abatement and a $20 million project with a 15-year tax abatement. And you see that once the abatement expires, just in a very few years, the value of the land that we contribute in this proposal, along with the school tax revenue that's generated, eclipses a much smaller project or no project at all, which is what we have right now, currently sitting on that fallow land that's been fallow for years and generating nothing for the public, no value for the schools. So I'm not going to support this motion. I think it's once again inappropriate. We can vet the details through the downtown committee when the time is right. I would appreciate members of this council to stop making allegations and innuendos that inappropriate conduct has occurred. It's tiresome. Let's keep this moving. Let's get it through the process. You can vote up or down and we can go forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Strictula, did you want to add to the discussion?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a couple of things. Councilmember Chance, you talked about opening this up for competition. That's exactly what this does, this motion. By pausing the negotiations with Mr. Cohen, it then allows the city to really do an actual request for proposal, which has not happened at all for this property, or a development to actually see what else is out there. So while it's fair to say it's been on the market, I mean, if you don't put a for sale sign out or an open for business sign out, maybe you're probably not getting the best customers, right? Or the most customers. So, like, you know, this just opens it up. It opens it up for competition. It opens it up for an opportunity to really see what is the actual best that is out there. And Mr. Councilmember Chance, excuse me, you're right. If Mr. Cohen's deal is the best one, then we'll know. We'll know, and we can drive forward and do that. And I don't think, Mayor, no one is making innuendos of inappropriate conduct, or I'm not even sure why you brought that up. But that's a big thing. But we've not had an RFP. There hasn't been any true competition. And frankly, this is a recommendation by the downtown committee. So either the committees are there for a reason or they're not. Either we're using them or we're not. So this is the recommendation of the downtown committee to pause negotiations with Mr. Cohen until we can have, and so we can do an actual RFP and see what else is out there. So either we use committees for what they're used for, or we might as well just get rid of them so we don't have to waste our time and have these meetings. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Council member, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just a few points of clarification. We're not Lebanon, we're not Loveland, we're not Milford, and we're not Hamilton. We offer, I think, a lot more. I love Lebanon, what they're doing. You know what they did? Mr. Cohen paid for the land. Imagine that. I think there was an article out there in one of the newspapers that showed he paid $225,000 for 0.6 acres.
Not correct.
Well, you want me to, all right, I will make it, I will get the article and I will provide it for everyone. So that is correct. That is true. And I admire Lebanon's leadership because I think they negotiated a better deal than we did. But then also, we could not have done this development until issue 4 was passed. Is correct, Mr. Hanson?
Densities. So yeah, you couldn't have acted on it without something changing the charter at the densities he's currently proposed.
And when did that happen?
Charter change was 2019.
Okay, so 2008.
November 18.
Okay, 18. So, I mean, so to say it's been sitting dormant for all these years and it's been sitting, we just passed legislation or a charter amendment that allowed us to elevate this land to be able to even do a development. So I wanted to make that point clear, to make it seem like it's been sitting dormant for, the past forever. That's not true. So, that's all I have to say.
Without
Vice
any,
Mayor? Vice Mayor?
I was going to move on to call the roll, but do you have a quick
Yeah,
comment?
it's just in response to Lebanon. And I don't have all the details. I don't have the paperwork with me, but Lebanon contributed 5 or more acres to the mixed use development. What Mr. Chance is referencing, where Mr. Cohen bought property, that's in an article in the Pulse Journal or Dayton Daily News about acreage purchased to facilitate a brewery that's going in, that's separate from the mixed use development. The mixed use development is very similar to what's being proposed in downtown Mason. Lebanon made some infrastructure contributions, including a big detention pond, which they're creating a fishing lake, and some other things. So it's actually very similar. They also did a tax abatement of 15 years, and CMC worked out an agreement with Lebanon City Schools for a pilot program so that they would be getting a payment in lieu of taxes. So just to clarify that, Lebanon did contribute land, city-owned land.
Very, very good. So unless there's any further discussion, I'm going to move on to call the roll in terms of, I want to refresh our memory as to what the motion is. Is it your motion to suspend further discussions with Mr. Cohen? If you could restate
It's
your.
really to suspend it temporarily until this goes through the downtown committee and it's properly vetted.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Stricula, would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
No.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
No.
Vice Mayor Gil,
No.
Mayor Grossman.
No.
Okay. I think we're on committee reports. Is there any other committee reports?
I do.
Member Nelson.
Yes. So I'm on the Veterans Board, I guess, committee, board, whatever. And we are now working on a different project. I've always had a special place in my heart for Gold Star families. And our memorial is missing any kind of Gold Star family monuments or anything to recognize the Gold Star families. So we have decided to do a Gold Star bench as part of our memorial. And we're currently in the process of designing what that bench is going to look like. And some of the ideas that we have are really great, and I think you guys are going to like them, but you have to wait till we finalize it. But that is what the Veterans Committee's next mission is.
Very good. Any of the members of council have any committee reports? Moving on to the next item on our agenda, item 20, old and new business. Is there any old and new business to come before council?
I do. I have some, Mayor.
Nelson?
Yeah. So I have just a couple things. Some good news on the update of centralized tax collection. So we've been following this for quite some time, and the Supreme Court has finally ordered that the state of Ohio has to return the fees with interest on any money that they've withheld from the cities based on the centralized tax collection program that they had put into place. And this is great because we don't want our Mason tax dollars going up to the state so they can take a fee and then give us our money. So this, I have full faith that the state of Ohio is probably going to end up dropping this program because they are no longer receiving any revenue to implement this program, and it's been costing them a lot of money, and it's a lot of work for them. So I'm in hopes that this will soon be something we don't even have to talk about anymore. But I consider that a big win for Mason. And I think that is it. I did find out that Mason is going to be receiving $6.6 million from the new, what is it, the American, Recovery Act. I forgot what it's called exactly, but Mason's receiving $6.6 million. So I'm not quite sure what we're allowed to spend it on yet. I was going to have him see if I can have a quick meeting with our finance director to get that information, and I'll alert you on our next council meeting.
Very good. Any other old or new business? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 21 on our agenda, which is, again, recognition of visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address council? Mr. Looker, you want to come back to the podium? While he's coming, I'll ask our assistant manager whether there's anyone in the online queue that wishes to address council. There is? Okay. Mr. Looker?
Yes, I'd like to expand a little bit on what Diana said with the Gold Star families. With our Blue Skies Foundation, this year we have now located 23 Purple Heart recipients and 7 Gold Star families we're going to be bringing to our August 4th through the 8th conference. So this goes right along with that, and thank you, Diane, for bringing that up. Second thing I'd like to address is this resolution 2021-6. I belong to the American Legion Military Order of Purple Heart, Veterans of Foreign War, Disabled American Veterans, and the 48th organization. And it's written in all of those organizations in our bylaws that you cannot participate in any political activities with anything that you're wearing, your cap, a shirt, or anything. So I really don't understand if this is just for non-profit corporations, or is it for also veterans organizations?
Good questions.
I guess TJ's the one that brought it up, correct?
No, I'm, if I may, Mayor.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yeah, I was the one that had some discussions with our law director. I asked him to go ahead and put something together in regard to that. I see no problem with your organizations.
It's written into all of our bylaws, so. And if you do participate in any political activity like that, you can be suspended or actually removed from that organization.
That's probably a smart way to run your organization.
Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else in the audience that wishes to address council? And I believe we have somebody in the online queue that wishes to address council.
Vice Mayor, Mr. Randy Stegbauer, if you would like to address council, you may do so at this time.
Yeah, this is Randy Stegbauer from 5358 Hidden Creek Circle. I noticed on our up along 71 as I was driving by Mason there's a couple of billboards. One of them is advertising for the golf center, I believe, but the other one has just on it, come together Mason, or some, just an advertising for Mason. And it kind of struck me as a little unusual. And then I wondered, how much we're paying for that, which department should I, contact, to find that information out. And that's really all I had to say.
Maybe I'll address the city manager. I don't know if he has any comment in terms of, I'm not sure yet. Do you know what his question is?
I think so. It's probably best we could reach out to him directly and explain. I'm not clear what his question on. Those billboards are owned by the city by virtue of purchasing the golf course. So we could talk to him. There's no.
In other words, you just said that you own those billboards, so you didn't have to. You're not renting them. In other words.
No, we're not renting space on this.
So the only cost was to creating the artwork.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Anything further, Mr. Stegbauer?
Nope. Thanks.
Very good. Is there anyone else in the online queue that wishes to address council? All right.
Mayor, may I back up to old business, new business, just for a second?
Anybody have any objection to?
It may concern something of Mr. Chance's.
Mr. Bradburn, go ahead.
Mr. Seiler, I understand the state of Ohio is going to do a major lighting improvement at the intersection of Kings Mill, or I should say 741 and I-71. I don't know if that's going to affect what we want to do with the Mason sign. I don't know.
You're telling me they're interrupting that?
Well, what I'm telling you, they have approved the, I knew you'd be interested in this, okay? They have approved the money. There's going to be a major lighting improvement at that intersection, I-71 and 741. I don't know if they're going to put individual poles, the big tall poles, whatever. I don't know if we've had that in our equation on the Mason sign. I guess what I'm saying, if we're going to spend some money on the Mason sign, we need to make sure it's not whited out by whatever the state has indicated they're going to do. Can you check into that, Mr. Seiler?
All right, good, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to make
Let someone know.
And if I can, one other item I saw on the, and this is the state budget, they are going to add the ramp from Mason, Montgomery to southbound 71 by the BP station. So it's going to be a 2-year project. So there'll be an exclusive lane southbound Mason, Montgomery to go up on 71. You won't have to cross Fields Earl to get on the southbound 71. That's in their budget. Mr. Seiler, would you like to, have you picked up on that in any communications or press releases? I saw it in a press release.
Yeah, that's actually a Warren County TID project that they've been working on for the last few years, doing the environmental work, getting the right of way for it, and completing the plans. So they must be having ODOT bid that project and doing the work.
Okay, and what about the interchange lighting improvement?
I'm not aware of that. I'll have to check on that.
Okay. Sleep at the switch again, right, Ashley? What can I say?
But I doubt it would impact our bridge or our lettering.
That's better.
Okay, I hope not. I appreciate council's indulgence of backing up.
That brings us to item 22 on our agenda, which is adjournment. Does we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Yeah, Ashley, I saw that. And I says, "Oh, you got to be kidding." You know, are they going to put those big, tall, high intensity?
I'm guessing it's